It's Harry's third year at Hogwarts, and all over the news, even for the Muggles, it was reported that a convicted murderer named Sirius Black has escaped the wizard prison Azkaban, which has never been done before. There were even rumors sprouting about that Black was going after Harry. For the safety of the students, Hogwarts is being guarded by the Azkaban guards called Dementors. These things are dangerous because they cannot tell one human being from another and will suck out your happy memories if you get too close and force you to relive only your worst experiences. The third Harry Potter year is The Prisoner of Azkaban, introducing a bunch of new characters. Sirius Black is one of the most obvious, played by Gary Oldman. As we learn in the third act, he is not the true villain. It was actually a man he was accused of killing, Peter Pettigrew, played by Timothy Spall. The press also thought that Black betrayed Harry's parents to have them killed by Voldemort, but it turns out that Pettigrew did that. Even though the book tells us information about a secret keeper's duties, the movie only gives us vague hints and doesn't even mention anything of a secret keeper. That's a huge problem with the movie, how often it makes changes from the original source material or removes stuff that is actually more important than it seems. This one instance is really minor in the grand scheme of things. It's kind of unimportant. But there's more to come after. While a werewolf's afflictions are described in great detail, the animagus, if you're going by the movies, is only briefly explained by Hermione, saying how an animagus elects to turn into an animal at will. Nowhere else is an animagus truly explained. Not sure it exactly matters, since we've already seen this stuff with Professor McGonagall in the first film. We do get to see Professor Lupin transform into a werewolf, which actually makes sense considering previous signs, of which Hermione only mentions one, which isn't the Boggart transforming into the full moon, by the way. But the only hint to how Lupin wasn't able to attack anyone is a certain potion he drinks. In the book, he drinks a potion brewed by Snape each month so he can keep his wits as a werewolf and stay hidden until it's over. In the movie, this is only revealed as a vague hint, not properly explained. Speaking of Lupin and his friends, the story with Sirius Black, Peter Pettigrew, Remus Lupin, and James Potter is not explained in any sufficient detail in the movie like it is in the book. It is hinted that the Marauders map, which Harry received from friend George Weasley to secretly get around Hogsmeade, had involvement from Lupin in some fashion because he knew how to work it. The book makes it clear that Lupin, Pettigrew, Black, and Harry's father went under the aliases Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs to keep their identities secret. This point, for whatever reason, is not explained in the movie, so how did Lupin know how to work the map? I'm sure we could guess that he helped write it, but revealing information in a story can't work like that. We need confirmation in order to truly know. Same with how Black escaped Azkaban. It was explained in the book, but for some reason not in the movie. We know why he escaped, but not how. Concealing the information about the Marauders' identities weakens the connection that Harry has with his father just a little bit, because James Potter as an animagus actually turned into a stag. That's why James was called Prongs, and it's also why Harry's Patronus is a stag. Because of this removal of information, the film feels rushed at times. Harry's training on the Patronus charm looks really good when he pulls it off on the Dementors. Unfortunately, it isn't used very often. This is mainly affected by the moment Harry receives a firebolt broom sent secretly by Sirius Black to replace his broken Nimbus 2000. In the book, he gets in the middle of the story, and because there's no hint to who sent the broom, McGonagall confiscates it to check for jinxes, then returns it to Harry upon the discovery that it's perfectly fine. He uses it in the next two Quidditch games, and in the first game uses the Patronus charm to stun what he thought was a bunch of Dementors, though it turned out to be Malfoy and some other Slytherins playing a joke. The movie removes that detail and doesn't give Harry the firebolt until the very end of the movie. Even worse, this is the first we've heard of the firebolt going by the movies, whereas in the book, it was set up at the beginning to belong to Harry sometime later. The film could have been stretched to maybe a 3-hour runtime, but instead it goes for 2 hours and 9 minutes without the end credits, so I don't see the harm in expanding upon certain elements to match up with the books. However, the story it tells is still a good story even with those hiccups, and has a clever twist. The effects are once again great for the time. The effects of the Hippogriff Buckbeak age very well. I love the flight scene that takes place after Harry learns about taming a hippogriff, which thankfully doesn't feel too long. The Dementors are twisted and scary, like they're meant to be, and represent that very well. Anytime they're around, you want them out of sight. I'm not very fond of the werewolf design though. He looks too humanoid, mixed alongside Mr. Spock and Gollum with the pointy ears and jagged posture. I mean, he's got the snout and the ears are meant to be pointy, but the design could have been a whole lot better. One of the most famous things to come from this installment is the change in casting. Most of the cast members stay the same: Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, Rupert Grint, Maggie Smith, Robbie Coltrane, Alan Rickman, but the casting difference that really stands out is for Dumbledore, replacing Richard Harris with Michael Gambon. He gave his own interpretation of the character, putting on a slight Irish accent. It's not to say that Gambon is a bad actor, he does a good job with the role, but doesn't quite have the charisma that Harris had, and it's about to get more obvious in the next installment. With the director changed from Chris Columbus to Alfonso Cuarón, it gives a certain other style. The new direction the film takes is a bit more dark, but it's not as obvious as it is soon to be. These first 3 films were fairly lighthearted compared to what would come next. After Prisoner of Azkaban, who knows what the future would hold in store for the young hero who once conquered the Dark Lord.